Houston AD Eddie Nunez, and in talking about that messaging about the budget, saying they want to double the budget. So I imagine we'll be talking to him about that in just a matter of seconds. But getting him on the line now, and about to talk a little Houston Cougars here on the show.
I was told by Kyle Visser to start out the interview because he's one of our favorite Cougar fans on the message board here. He wanted me to ask you, Eddie, whose house?
Coug's house.
There we go. So there you're off to a great start.
That could have been a disaster.
if that's how we're going to go ahead and start rating it, let's keep these softball questions. I'm good.
Eddie, what is it? You were at New Mexico. That was an athletic department that needed a refresh, and you did a great job there and started moving on up. And now you're at Houston. What's the transition been like, and what are the new challenges that you're excited to tackle there for the Cougars?
Well, I think there's plenty of challenges. Some of them are simple. Some of them are a little bit more defined that we have to get after, and we have to figure out our budgets. And but it's the one consensus across the board is I have to get out there and start getting to know people. They got to see who we are. I've got to help be the face of our department as much as I can, so that when I'm in the community, when I'm getting to know people, they know what we're about. They know the vision. If I can do that like I've done before and everywhere else I've gone, I can see the fan base not just embrace and understand what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do it, and it's going to start all the financials and the fundraising and everything else that's part of the litany of things that we can do and we can maybe do better. We're going to be ahead of the game. We definitely will be ahead of the game.
Eddie, I know that there's plenty of things that you've got to address and plenty of different, lanes that you have to drive down as athletic director. But I think the messaging's been pretty clear from the outset here. Fundraising, right? I mean, is that like priority number one and the biggest thing on your plate as you get started?
Well, it's just it's the one thing that everybody feels is the easy answer. And unfortunately, in partnerships, it's finding ways to look at our budget differently. How do we create new revenue streams? With NIL, with the rev share, everything else that's coming down the road, we have to be creative. Do we look at different ways of putting sponsorships on fields, on jerseys, on things? So many ideas that are out there. I'm not going to say every one of those are going to work for us, but for me personally, more than anything else, it's really just trying to figure out what are we missing? What haven't we tapped into? But it's generating more revenue for the department and then putting those resources where they need to be.
Eddie, you don't have to come in and hire a football coach, which is probably one of the harder things an athletic director has to do nowadays. And you walk in with Willie Fritz. How much does that make a job like Houston attractive to someone who's looking to go to it? That they've already hired a coach. It's Willie Fritz. He's well accomplished, and you don't have to worry about that at all to lead off.
Yeah, no, I think it makes it's one less headache or one less challenge that you have to focus on, because those two positions, those two hires are critical to any department just because of the amount of visibility that they have, the impact that they can bring to a department. And so I've really appreciated not just getting to know them, but how they support each other, how they're really encouraging each other to do what needs to be done here. And so when you have those two programs really walking, side by side, it's going to help all the other coaches and all our student athletes support each other too. So it's what gave us opportunities at every place I've been. When you see your basketball and your football coaches really hand in hand, it sets up for some great outcomes. It really does.
You played college basketball, and so you're entering a league, and I know you guys had success in basketball in New Mexico, and you're entering a league that very much loves the game of basketball. Just what are your thoughts on, I guess, your impressions of the Big 12 from the outside looking in and now entering the league? What excites you about, Houston being a part of this mix of teams?
Well, it is. I believe it, and I've seen it from a distance over the last several years, but I do believe that this league is the best basketball league in the country. And I don't think there's SEC, if you want to say at times, some teams in the SEC across the board, every one of our teams has a chance to be not just a championship program, but take it to the next level. And so I'm excited. I mean, I love basketball, love the game. There's some great coaches, but what Kelvin has done here, the team, the continuity, staff, the players, that's given us a really great chance, not just to compete for championships, but compete for a national championship. So, I mean, you kidding me? Going from New Mexico to here, we had some great success there, and Richard's doing a wonderful job. I'm excited for this as well.
With Houston being located in the city of Houston, where some of the best high school talent in all of athletics, particularly football, is part of your goal to make sure that the kids in Houston know more about UH and not maybe wander as far away from home?
Yeah, this they have to really truly believe in the University of Houston. I've said this before. We are the university. Again, not just of Houston, we're for Houston. So everybody needs to understand that we're going to do everything we can to as Coach Sampson said and others, we got to close the doors. We've got to do what we can to keep the kids here. Now, that's football, basketball, that's all sports, because the talent rich that Houston has. I remember being at LSU and coming and seeing our coaches come in here and plucking kids from the football, basketball, baseballs of the world. And we've got to do our part. We got to do our part to really solidify ourselves as the university here. And then I've had this question asked many times. You have LSU right down the street, you have A&M right down the street, you have other schools in Texas that are considered maybe a different size or this and that. For me, it's about we have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of Houston first and foremost, and then continue to go from there.
I know that you have some familiarity with the city of Houston and your time at LSU and whatnot, but did you have many relationships? Was there many connections, or is this kind of a brand new getting to know period for the people that you're going to be working alongside?
Well, I from the department's sake, I really did have many connections with this department. I still have a lot of donors from the LSU time that live in this area that I've still kept in great contact with. I still, my time at New Mexico, crazy part is two of our bigger donors live here in Houston.
Okay.
And so I've had to come back numerous times just to come meet with them and have dinner. And so I've come back many times over the last 7 years, even in Houston, even in my time in New Mexico. We have a former football NFLer that lives here now. And so being able to come back to visit those individuals, getting to know others. But let's make no mistake about it. I've got a lot of work ahead of me to meet more than just those individuals that I already know. I want to get to know as many, not just in the corporate world, the business world. I want to get to know our fans. I want to get to know the community as much as I can.
What is different now about being an athletic director than it was when you started that you maybe didn't anticipate?
I think it's rapidly changing, but the one thing that is evident is college athletics is changing for some time now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if it was cost of attendance years ago to, the nutrition or whatever you want to add to it, the one thing I know is college athletics will always change. There'll always be an evolution of some sort. And today where we sit, it's just we have to become more accessible to change. Understanding it's almost a GM approach, but still being a traditional athletic director because you have all the ins and outs that you still have to deal with. So you're changing your approach, your vision, the way you look at things. You have to be more innovative. Can't be old school in the way you think. You can have those traits in you, but they can't be forward. They can't be the reasons that you're thinking to move forward is look, we've done it that way. I will never. If we did something one way, it doesn't mean we're going to do it that way moving forward. So we've got to continue to evolve and look at things differently.
What with the House settlement, the expansion of scholarships, and those things going on, what do you look at Houston adding scholarship wise, or do you have you even got into that about which sports that you're really at least early on going to put the pedal down on?
Well, I honestly, I really can't even tell you. I've had all that the last couple of days thrown at me different ways. I've seen it from my previous institution what we were looking at. But where I am today, it's really trying to assess the programs. I need to understand what is being done at what level. Are we fully supporting every team right now when it comes to scholarships and everything else? And that's what I'm trying to understand. When we look at the whole totality of roster limits and the house settlement and everything else, we're going to have to put our best foot forward with what we have available. Still keeping Title IX in mind, still keeping that football and basketball are going to probably drive the train for us, which is no different than any other institution across the country. So what are we going to do between those two pillars, seeing football, basketball on one side and then seeing Title IX, and how are we going to fit everything else between those two?
I know that it's stressful, but when things like this happen where you can expand sports and you can do things, is that exciting for you?
I will tell you, I've had the experience of having to cut a sport at my previous institution, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Seeing our student athletes having to walk in there and saying, "Look, we're going to unfortunately have to, remove this team from our university," and that was something that I hope I'll never have to experience again. So I am doing everything in my power as we look at expansion, reductions, tiering. I want to look at everything. Doesn't mean that we're going to pursue anything for me more than anything else. I am going to do everything that we can to retain what we have. And if we get to a point one day where we're excelling in that plan, then we can look at expanding and doing some other things, that we cross that bridge together. But for me right now, it's look at everything, look at what ways we can do it differently. But definitely reduction of sports is not something that we want to consider.
When you look at, as you're coming in, they're already making facility upgrades to the stadium and all of that. Is that also like part of it when you apply for a job of like, okay, well, what are they doing? What have they done? Like, well, they're currently doing facility upgrades, so I can maybe hit the ground running more with that as opposed to trying to get something built from the ground up.
Yeah, I've been expansions and opportunities from my time at Vanderbilt to LSU, even in New Mexico. We built some great facilities. For the most part, every sport you could probably add into it. So I like the chance to be able to say, okay, look, let's grow this. I've already met with our staff and said I want to look at the plans of football. I'm not coming in to change things, but where we are in the construction project is there's things that can be viewed a little bit differently. I'm not trying, like I said, Coach Fritz has a good expectation of where this building is going to be. I just want to see if I can add any value to it that's going to help our team be more efficient, more functional. And so that's how I'll treat projects that are existing. Anything that is not, I'm bringing a fresh set of eyes. So why not look at things differently from the standpoint of, are we maximizing what we need to do? All our facilities probably need a little TLC. Probably not to the point where it needs to be blown up and rebuilt, but it needs some TLC. So what can we do? How do we prioritize that at the same time, revenue share and everything else? So those are the areas where I really want to find a way to touch base with certain donors and certain supporters and say, look, if you have a passion for a certain sport, how can we make that sport better? And so I love it. I love being able to build on things and reinvent certain areas, but it has to be for the fan experience, for our student athletes. All those things have to be considered.
Before we let you go, I do have to ask you one question. Smokey and I years ago went and covered an NCAA tournament at the Pit, which is one of my favorite venues I've ever been to in college athletics. It's so cool and so unique. But I did almost die walking up the stairs because I wasn't ready for the altitude. One, is there a reverse now that you're almost at sea level in Houston? And two, whose idea was that to throw that little wrench of like, oh, the altitude's a factor here, and we're going to make sure that our opponents know?
It happened before me. I can't take credit for that at all.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it is real. That altitude, walking up that ramp at halftime or even before the game, it's a steep 30+ feet ramp that you're walking at altitude. You're trying to get ready for a game. It starts playing into your mental psyche, and so the more we can remind the visitors, hey, by the way, you're going to be experiencing a little dizziness. You're going to be experiencing a little nausea. If you do, this is so that just kind of continues to just fester in their minds. So the more we can add to them not performing the way they need to, it was the goal there. So it is a special place. So I'm excited to be here in the Fertitta Center and see the experience there. But there's a lot of magic that happened at the pit. I mean, and so I'll miss it. I'll miss it dearly. But I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to cheer on the Cougs here at the Fertitta Center.
Eddie, thanks for hopping on the show today. Enjoy moving to Houston. I know that's got to be a whole nother headache in and of itself. Moving is tough, but enjoy the transition, and we'll have you on again soon. We always love talking to the folks down in H-Town.
I appreciate you guys having me, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Anything we can do, we're here. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. That's Eddie Nuñez, the new Director of Athletics at the University of Houston.